Texas Chainsaw Massacre action. How's it going, horror fans? Welcome to the Texas Chainsaw remake review. That's right, the remake, not the original. I'm going to be going over the 2003, I believe, or 2, I think it was 2003 remake by Marcus Nispel, the director who brought us the remake of Friday the 13th in 2009. But when it comes to Friday the 13th remake and this remake, I think this one's better. This was actually one of the first horror remakes of the millennia after 2000 that I think started that whole craze of remaking all those big movies, because we started with this one, and then we got the Hills Have Eyes, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Carrie. They just all came after this movie. I think this one set the ball going. That's my opinion. You want to fight me on it? Go right ahead. You're wasting your time because I won't respond. But this movie is hands down an eerie ass fucking movie. This movie starts with raw footage of these cops going into the basement of the Thomas Hewitt house. Their last name's Hewitt in this movie. I think in the original they were Sawyer, or in this other movie, the last name of this family in the Leatherface guy's family, it always changes, doesn't it? I'm not a fan of this series. I like this one the most. I saw the original this year or last year. That one was boring to me. But this is hands down an awesome remake. But it starts with this footage. It's all grainy, black and white. It tells you it's real, but it's not. This movie's inspired by true events, just like the first one, but it's not 100% accurate. It's just yeah, this movie's inspired by a killer. Yeah, well, there's killers everywhere, so you can say anything in any movie is inspired by true events. Dude, where's my car? That's probably inspired by true events, because everybody's lost their car at some point, or at least fucking lost their keys. That movie's based on a true story too. But anyways, that doesn't even matter. This movie is just awesome. This movie is shot visually good. The set designs, these places they go to, it just feels so gritty and nasty. If you were there, you'd want to click your heels 2 times and just get the fuck out in an instant. I would rather be stuck in the sewer with Pennywise the Clown than fucking Leatherface in the woods. Let's talk about Leatherface. This is hands down the best adaptation of Leatherface in the whole franchise. And I haven't seen the whole franchise, but I've seen clips, I've seen footage, and this is hands down the best look. He's wearing somebody else's face, and it's all just greenish brown. It's deteriorating, and he's got stitches going. He almost looks like a Chucky. He has that Chucky stitches going through his face. It's just an awesome, eerie look. But anyways, this movie is about a group of teenagers, some stoners. You got a couple in the front seat. The final girl, played by Jessica Biel. You can't go wrong there. This is hands down probably the hottest final girl in all horror. But unfortunately, she's the one that makes the stupid decision that ends up getting a lot of people killed. So that makes you hate her just a little bit. She's one of those passionate people who is just so passionate that ends up screwing everyone else over. It screws them up. She's like, we gotta protect his body. It's a dead body. Push it off the road. But anyways, I'm jumping too far forward. Let me just give you a quick synopsis. So anyways, we got this group of teenagers. They're going to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert, and then this girl is on this road, and they pick her up, and she tells them that they're heading into a shitstorm. And she doesn't want any part of that again, because she just survived some shit that we didn't get to see, and therefore she blows her brains out. But there's one thing I want to point out. She tells them they're going the wrong way as they're driving, and she's like, you're going the wrong way. They're going the way you were walking when they picked your ass up. So you're going the wrong way. That's just a little nitpick. Let's just get back to the story. So therefore, she blows her brains out, the hitchhiker, and therefore they gotta wait for this cop to come and pick up the body. And meanwhile, the group splits up. They want to go find a phone, blah, blah, blah. And this is when the story kicks in. We got Leatherface, you got the badass R Lee Ermey, who just recently passed, rest in peace. His character, hands down, is probably more intimidating than Leatherface sometimes. He is just so evil and badass. When he gets in frame, you're just more intimidated by his presence. You want another nitpick? Here's another nitpick. How the fuck did a pig get in a locker? How does that happen? I'd also like to point out that this hitchhiker who blows her brains out, I don't know where she grabbed that gun from. She's wearing a dress, and she just reaches up towards her, you-know-what, and pulls a gun out. Is that where she was stashing it? You got the stoner character who's played by Jonathan Tuck, who was in Call of Duty World War II. And just like in that video game, in this movie, he is hard to understand sometimes. When he's freaking out, it just sounds like gibberish. Not even captions would probably pick up what this guy is saying. Just the tone of this movie is just, like I said before, it's gritty, but it's also based in Texas, and it feels so hot. When you're watching this movie, you just feel miserable. You're just oh, it's getting hot. They're just drenched. in sweat throughout like this whole movie, which is weird because in this one character dies. I'm not spoiling anything. If I'm reviewing a movie that's this old, I'm gonna give you spoilers. All right, it's not like this movie just came out this weekend and I'm spoiling shit. Go out and see it if you haven't seen it, and then watch this review. But this one girl who's like the other hitchhiker they picked up like the day before, apparently, who's like making out the guy in the van earlier. Before she dies, she's wearing like a fucking feather coat, like it has feathers inside. Where does she? I don't even know where she got this coat from, but she's wearing a coat before she dies and feathers go everywhere. It was like one of those ideas the director has that it might look cool. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if she was wearing like a feather-filled coat and when he got her, feathers flew everywhere? Yeah, but why is she wearing a coat in Texas? It's fucking 100 degrees. But yeah, that's just a little small nitpick I had. This movie for the most part just goes for like a gritty, nasty, miserable, scary tone. I mean, the beginning of the first act when you're introducing to your characters, it's, you know, funny, some parts. But then it's just real bad, like just, it's miserable throughout the whole movie. In a good way. This movie's supposed to do that. The only comic relief you get after the second act kicks in and shit's hitting the fan is R Lee Ermey. Like, he has some one-liners, he's saying crazy shit, like left and right, that I'm surprised these characters didn't realize right off the bat that this was bad news, this guy. A cop does not just dispose of the evidence himself. An ambulance or coroner does that, and a cop doesn't pick up the weapon used in the crime scene and holster it to keep for himself, and they don't just saran wrap the fucking body. These characters were just so stupid, thinking, well, he's got the authority because he's a cop, therefore I can't say anything. Bullshit. Get the fuck out of there. But yeah, it's like you just got this whole family that's in on it in this town, and they're all cannibals, apparently. It's like, well, no, they're not cannibals. They're eating pigs and cows. They got this whole meat factory to themselves. That's one thing that's not explained, but therefore you don't need it. Like, sometimes in a horror movie, you don't need explanations. You can just be creative. And that's why this movie ends up getting a prequel to explain how this town just got abandoned and they're the only ones left, and it explains how they decided to become cannibals just like that. I would much rather die than be a cannibal. But they're obviously not cannibals in this movie because they're eating all kinds of other shit. They got baked beans, they got pigs and cows they're constantly slaughtering, and plenty of them are very plump. Like, you got this humongous chick who's just tough to look at. She's creepy. But one thing I do like about this horror movie is that unlike a lot of other horror movies, they might have that last scare at the end, but it's not a last scare that says, oh, she's gonna die. It's just a last scare. Jessica Biel in this movie, who's Erin, her name's Erin, she makes it. So therefore, this actually has a good ending, and I like that. You don't get that too often in horror movies, and I love it. Another, like, very emotional scene, this movie has emotional scenes. Like, you got sacrifice, like she has to put her friend, Jessica Biel has to put her friend out of his misery because he's hanging on a meat hook, which they did to kind of pay homage to the first movie, the original. But she has to put him out of his misery, and I found that to be interesting for a horror movie that I feel like you don't really see that much. I've seen a lot of horror movies. You don't see people putting other people out of their misery. I thought that was a pretty interesting aspect of this movie. Another interesting aspect is you got the little kid, Jedediah, who's part of the crazy family. Everyone around him in his family's crazy except for him. He wants to help these people out, but he's too small to do it. So Leatherface just like pushes him aside, like, get out of my way. Another thing this movie does, kind of like the original, is like in the original Leatherface, and especially in the ones after, Leatherface isn't supposed to be the main intimidating guy, the one with the chainsaw. His family bosses him around in all those movies and makes him look like a little piece of shit, like he's like the family bitch. But in this one, they don't really do that too much. They just have this one small scene where the mother calls him out and he's like in the other room just on the ground up against the wall, kind of ashamed and hiding himself. That's the only moment of weakness it kind of shows you with Leatherface, because they don't really want to make him feel not intimidating throughout this whole movie, like he's just like the family bitch. He's pretty badass. This is the best Leatherface in the whole franchise. But they do at one point have Leatherface hurt himself with the chainsaw and he starts crying like a little bitch, like But I found that interesting. Like, when's the last time you saw like Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, or Jason hurt themselves and start crying? You don't see that. But this killer actually shows pain. It kind of humanizes Leatherface in a way. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I like it a little bit. Sometimes it could be a little too much, especially at the end when he gets his arm chopped off. He's really crying like a little girl. But I would too if I got my arm chopped off. I'm not saying I'm more badass than Leatherface, okay? Calm down. But this movie is just a very well-paced, awesome, gritty, hot, miserable movie. The designs of these, it gives you this eerie vibe in all these different places. It just looks and feels miserable. And that's what it's supposed to do. And I can't forget to mention the score before I go. The score at the end and at the beginning, just that miserable, it just sounds eerie. And then you got like that photography sound, like that weird sound. I can't describe it, but it's just awesome. This is a great remake, so if you haven't seen it, this is a great movie to pick up and watch. I watch it at least once every year. So if you haven't seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and if you haven't seen any of them, I recommend you start with this one. So therefore, when it comes to this movie, I say you go out and buy it. Have you seen this 2003 remake? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Is it your favorite Leatherface, or is it your least favorite? I can't imagine that it would be your least favorite when you got movies like this one. But hey, everyone's got their own opinion. Let me know what you thought about this movie in the comments below, how scary it was. And as always, if you enjoyed this review at all and you want to see more rantastical content, then you can do so by clicking my beautiful face in 5 seconds. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.